And I told
Nice.
myself, and then in 90 days, let's give ourselves 90 days to see what I can really do. Within those 90 days, I picked up 32 listings in 90 days, and I became the manager of the office that we ran back there on the 90th day.
In this episode of the Journey podcast, we hear from John King, a father, a mentor, a coach, a business owner that is going to walk us through the mindset of what it takes in order for you to succeed in business. Don't feel burnout, but more importantly, keep growing and expanding every single year. We're excited to hear John's story. Let's go. Welcome, John. Thank you for being here again.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jose. It's been an interesting journey. Just it's the game of real estate, right? And when I first met you in the mastermind and the coaching group, we've come a long way. So I'm very
Yeah,
happy
we
to be here and just to see all your success and what you do. It's been amazing to see.
thank you, man. And you know what is it's so interesting because you probably don't remember this because this is how I met you. This is our first time, and I don't want to put a year because I will be completely wrong, but I'm gonna say 7, 8 years. We're just gonna use that as reference. But I remember you seeing you from a distance, and I went up to you, and then back then my business was completely different than what it is right now. I was trying to figure it out, trying to figure out who was I going to be, either a leader in the space or just going and mastering the sales business. I was so confused. And I remember the first time I went and I approached you and I said, hey, I didn't know your name. So I was like, hey, question, like if I wanted to join the program, like what would it take, man? Because honestly, like I can pay for it, but I want to make sure that I just get the best out of my money. And the first thing you said is like, well, tell me your production. That was the first thing. It was interesting because you were so just right to the point. You didn't hesitate, and I was like, you know what, it's not that great. So okay, we got to just work on that. And it's interesting because I see in a lot of us in every industry now that had the opportunity of running multiple businesses, I see that people try to get shortcuts, and that is one of the things, man. That if I remember correctly, you used to just be straightforward with people about not taking shortcuts. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you because this podcast is all about the journey. So now I want to just open the floor to understanding your journey. How is it that someone can look at someone else and say, "Hey, man, stop the shortcut stop searching for the shortcuts, get right into mastering your business." So tell me from you, like, what happened to you? What was your day one? And did you at one point even try to look for shortcuts yourself? And how did that even come to bring you to the space that you're in now?
I appreciate you asking that. I mean, foremost, I think the biggest respect we can show people is being direct, right?
Right.
It's, I don't want to waste anybody's time. So if you're asking me for any type of advice, whatever I can give, I want to be as direct, concise, and precise as possible, right? And so that's probably, and you know what? That's kind of a double-edged sword only because that can come off a little harsh. That can come off
Right.
a little, right? Really direct. But I think in that, with the facial expression, with, just getting to know you, I think that transferred well in terms
It
of,
did.
whatever that advice was, right?
I needed
Um,
that. I needed that. Put it like that.
yeah, and the reason why I give that advice in terms of, there's no magic pill. There are no shortcuts. It's because I too look for those things, right? When I first started, it was, hey, what can I do that can really shorten up, my so-called success or the sales in real estate or wherever I want to go. I think it's human nature to look for things that are a little bit easier, that's a little bit more convenient, right?
Right.
And that kind of advice. It actually comes from because I'm a slow learner, right? And so it comes from experience.
So walk us through your journey. Walk us through the beginning, like how I mean, let the audience understand who John is. So give us background, how long in the business? I mean, how was your day one? Like we really want to dive into the day one. And what I mean day one, even when the idea of business ownership even happened. Like I'm not talking about you when you got your license, your first sale. I'm talking about way before all that. What were you doing way back when? And then you said, I'm gonna go be a realtor. And then from there, now you're here.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. My transition into real estate, just like everybody else, it wasn't a first choice, right? It
Okay.
was maybe a second or third choice. I was working for a company and I was dating my wife back then, which, back then was my girlfriend. And I knew, with the pay structure, with, how much I was getting paid or even future outlook, if I were to get married and have a family, I didn't know that really could support it. And I don't know what it was, but it's not just the money portion. I really want to spend a lot of time with my family, right? So the time freedom aspect of it was super important. And, big shout out to my parents where they're like, hey, why don't you go get your real estate license? And I fought it at first. I'm like, I don't know if I'll be good at sales, right? I don't know if I have the chops for that. But some time passed, and working the corporate structure just didn't work out for me, right? And so I got the real estate license. I even have a GC license, right, together. And with those licenses, I was actually going to flip homes with my dad. But it's just that never happened. And so the day one was, let me tell you, when I entered into the entrepreneurship of being a real estate agent, it was a wild ride. It was a wild ride, right? Only because there's not real mentors, and within the real estate space, everyone thinks they're really just competing against each other, right? So it's their secrets, their way, their know-hows. And so they weren't sharing anything with, especially newer agents at that time, right? It was very closed off. And so I had to figure a lot of things on my own, which again, shortcuts, right? Like the magic pill. What can I do to get a deal, right? And
Yeah.
so it was, let's just say the first 10 months was really rough.
What year was this? Do you remember?
2007, 2009. I've been in the business roughly around 18 years.
Hold on, 2007, 2009. So you're telling me that you got into it when everyone was like leaving the business or on that season before? That was okay.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. And, I got into it, not knowing where the market was, right? And so
And your
it
parents,
was an
were they
interesting
in
time.
the business? Were your parents in the,
No, they're
how
not
is
in
it
the
that your
business.
parents mentioned real estate at all? Like, where did
No,
that
I
come from?
appreciate. My both of my parents, they have their own businesses, right? And so
Okay.
they thought, try something, like
Yeah,
you're home, right? You have a girlfriend, right? You're gonna get married. You gotta do something. You gotta do
sure.
something other than work for a company per se, right? What is the outlook? And so that's really, I think, the catalyst as to why they push me so hard.
And then, so you were working for corporate, is it what, is it like sales? No, it wasn't. It was more like what,
No, it wasn't
admin work?
sales.
Or
It was
what
more
was it?
project management.
Project management. Okay, so then you're doing project management. You said, "Let me go get my real estate license." You got your real estate license and you just jumped right into the business, or did it take you time to transition? You jumped in
Yeah,
just like that.
I was in my late 20s. I gave my 2 week notice. I said, hey, if I'm gonna
I'm
crash and
out.
burn, I can crash and burn. I'm young enough to crash and burn. Let's go do this.
Okay,
And let me tell you, again, it's been a wild ride.
right. So you get licensed, and then you started working. I'm guessing for like, was it like a first company? Was it like a big company, small company, or how was the start when you started there?
It's a well-known company here in the foothills, which no longer exists, unfortunately. But they
Okay.
had a great manager, the sweetest people. They took me in. They taught me everything that I for my base, right? And so they taught me a lot of stuff.
Got it. So then, when you started, how did you find your first mentor? Did you get connected to someone, or was this office structured in a way where they can walk you through that process? Is that how you started learning?
No, when I first got in, and because they weren't providing such a high level of education, you just kind of go into the office waiting for people to call. And I knew I needed a roadmap.
Okay.
I needed a coach, right? I need a
Okay.
mentor. I need somebody who's been doing it, who's done it to teach me the ropes. And the funny enough, we're at a different office and a title rep came in and he said, hey, why don't you check out Mike Ferry? And I was like,
Mm.
who is this Mike Ferry guy? And then we went to one of his events and I don't know, I fell in love. I fell in love. It was well structured. It was well put together. And it was easy for me to follow step by step as to, what can really lead to success.
Now, it's funny you mentioned Mike Ferry, coaching and guidance. A lot of people always tell me they're coachable. It's so funny. We talk to many people and they say, "Oh, I'm coachable." Yeah, but then we discover that they're not. They're really not coachable at all. They think they are, right? But they're coachable when it just benefits them trying to speed up the process. But the moment they realize that sometimes speeding the process means slowing down and doing the things that are gonna really level you up, and then they just close themselves off. Were you coachable at the beginning from day one? Like, were you following the everything they were saying, or did you find yourself some resistance at one point as well?
I think it's natural to fight, right? I think it's a natural to fight. The ego kicks in. And looking back, not so much. And then I thought I was coachable. Um, but if you really think about, because you can only really connect the dots backwards, right? Like
Yeah.
life, you live forwards, but you connect the dots, looking at it backwards. And, I was doing the work. I think being coachable physically, doing the hard work, all that, it really did make sense. But the mental side of it, the mindset of it, it was, there was a hard ceiling there where we had to break through. And that took a long time.
I get that. One of the things that I'm experiencing currently right now is a lot of times, as I'm teaching, like now people that are part of my organization, I realize that when it takes them 6 7 months for them to like understand that why we do what we do, and then they plug it in that the activity that they're supposed to be doing, and when it all makes sense, then they do the action. Now, this is a question that I believe can help a lot of people because you said something. We always go through resistance, right? So, how do you start quieting the mind to know that, yeah, there's resistance there, but you have to go through that? Like, you have to push through. Like, what is an advice that you would give someone that maybe is hearing from multiple people? Do your calls, do your role play, do like everything that we normally would just go and advise people to do, but they just won't do it. What would you say, or what would you tell someone like that if they were feeling that? Because at one point, I know me and you also felt it.
And I appreciate you asking. That's a really good question. I think people are motivated by either inspiration or desperation. Either they're
Mm,
not inspired enough or they're not desperate enough. And a lot of times because, the name of the game in real estate is obviously talking to people, right? It's a sales business.
sure.
Within that, there's a discipline of language, there's a discipline of systems, how to really run it like a business. And in business, you sell products or services, we often leave the customers out, which I think a lot of real estate agents make a mistake on. It's all for the customers. It's all for the clients, what they want and how they want to achieve it. In the beginning, a lot of real estate agents think, hey, this is quick money. Let me just get in. And it's me, right? When it's me, there's really not a lot of purpose driven action. But when you're doing it to provide the best customer service, the best customer experience, when people are in a pickle where you're trying to, you're advising them where they're, it's really just working for the best interest of others. I think that really sets a good tone on, your future endeavors or future actions.
It's one of the guys here at the office the other day actually brought up your name, and they said the guy that always knows what to say in roleplay or scripts. And it's funny because I know that you, I mean, maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think you were born that way, right? Were you just born knowing exactly how to communicate with people, or that's something that you put in the time and effort on learning? So it is something interesting that I think every salesperson, they want to learn how to master the art of communication, right? Advice on that, because I know this question, even me, I asked you this like 3 4 times throughout this time that we've known each other, and you have been able to guide me through this process. How would you explain something like that apart from script and practice, which we know is important? What other advice do you recommend for people that they just want to get better at communicating with prospects or just people overall?
And, well, number one, you got to put yourself in that situation. You got to live in that uncomfortable moment of either talking to prospects or talking to people. As the technology is getting better and better, we have information at the fingertips. I think the skill of communication isn't improving.
Mm.
So a lot of times, again, we're looking for magic pills and shortcuts. Really, the magic is in the work people aren't doing or putting themselves in a situation where they are talking to people. Just like everything else, if you want to get good at basketball, you got to play a lot of basketball, right? If you want to be good at communication, you got to communicate well. effectively, efficiently with the people that you're speaking to at a high frequency, right? And so, you know, and you said something there where I wasn't born like this. In fact, I'm a very private guy. I'm a very, when you talk to me one on one, I love having one on one conversation, but in speaking in front of people, prospecting, it was very new to me. It was
Really?
very uncomfortable, right?
Wow.
And even
I would
objections.
never have guessed that. I'm telling you, would never have guessed that.
No, and I appreciate you saying that. And that is, the result of thousands of hours talking to people, crashing and burning, not getting the appointments, being disappointed, and really not at the results, but the lack of just iterations that I was making on myself, right? And so there are a lot of teaching moments that I could have learned. However, it took me a while, but I did learn.
So, so you get in the business, right? Walk us through like the first time you got a deal. I've always been curious to ask you this question. Did you find it? Was it a referral? How did you started feeling that confidence of saying, okay, when you do one, we could do 100, right? I think we all say
Right.
that in our environment. So your first one, how did that happen?
It was, what I did know, that the second day I joined the company, we went to go on broker caravan. And there's nothing wrong with broken caravans. You should definitely know your inventory, but that wasn't the way that I was going to get business. I needed business today. And so we started door knocking with really bad flyers. And I just, without being scripted, with not knowing what to say, just went out there. And you would think you would get something if you talk to enough people, but that
Yeah.
wasn't it, right? I think the average real estate agent lasts about 6 months in the industry. My first deal came from my friends group after 10 months, right? So knowing that, for those of you that are out there listening, do not get discouraged, right? Do not get discouraged if you've been in the business for a little bit or, a little over average. It's there. We just got to dig a little bit deeper. My first deal was out in LA, with a good friend of mine. It was a 5 unit apartment building, on Alvarado Street. So yeah, it was exciting, but it was tough lasting those 10 months without a paycheck coming in.
So 10 months, no paycheck. I have a community that I teach the principles of just starting the business. And I have a saying where it's like, hey, in this business, you're going to be slave to your mind or slave to the work. At the beginning, you're going to have to decide which one's more important to you, right? And that's usually what it takes to get started. Then when you start leveling up, then you become a business owner, which now, I mean, you know exactly what I mean when I say that. How did you transition from saying, okay, I'm doing the business, right? I get it. Now let me start leveraging myself and multiplying myself, buying back my time and just structuring everything. How did you know when the time was right? Because I get a lot of people that they come into our space and right away, a few weeks in, they're like, okay, now I want to go build a team, you know? What is the best advice that you can give someone like that? And also, did you had doubts when you were thinking of also like saying, hey, I'm ready for my next level? And when did you know it was right?
And it's a multi-layered question, so I'll address the first one first. I think a lot of people
Sure.
step into it, thinking that the business itself, year after year, it'll just be great, right? There's no downside. It'll just up and up and up and up, and that's not true. Well, it could be true, but certainly for the most case, it's not true. And so there has to be, obviously the mindset has to come. The mindset you have to build, that you have a positive outlook that this will work out, not if, but it will work out, right? And so the daily actions that a lot of people take, that I took, although I didn't get a lot of results, it had to pay off. There was no way this energy and sweat equity was going to be wasted. I knew that effort was stored, and at some point it was going to unleash. And so, and really just being patient, right? I think that's number one. And I think the book Outlier really just puts in a nice little bow where 10,000 hours minimum, right, to master something. And if you're in a situation for long enough where you're making iterations and not quitting, I think that's a formula for success. The second portion is, I was presenting to a group the other day, and this came up. is that I thought I was making a lot of money. I think, and at a certain point, I was making decent money. However, I didn't have time freedom. I took my, my family to a vacation down in Carlsbad, and I was working on my vacation. I had two kids then. I have four now, but 2 years, two kids, and all I was doing is answering emails, answering phone calls. And then we would come out of the amusement park, go to dinner. I would ask my wife to order me something while I was out making calls and putting out fires, so call, and just doing deals. And I knew that wasn't it. It was time to scale. It was time to delegate. It's time to duplicate. And I think that was a harsh lesson in reality.
So you realize I have to find a way to work smarter, not harder. And then how did you find that? Like, how did you transition over to doing that? And was there any fear or anything you had to overcome?
And I appreciate that. And, the I think there's a common misconception where a lot of people believe if you have if you have money freedom, you have time freedom, which is absolutely untrue. Money freedom plus systems equal time freedom.
Okay.
I didn't build enough systems around my business where I could leave my business and still make money.
Uh,
I was the highest paid worker in my own business. That means I was, quote unquote, the best at things. I didn't trust enough people to handle certain things. I was really just handcuffing myself. Now, was there fear delegating and scaling? Absolutely.
it was.
Absolutely. I don't think fear and being scared of something ever goes away, right? As we're building out the brokerage and doing all sorts of different businesses, I think their fear is always there. And a mentor told me, courage isn't an absence of fear. Courage is acting upon even though there is fear. So
Mm, mm.
to answer your question, that fear is always there. It's just I don't live by the 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 notion of the fear is going to control me.
And then we brought up mentors, coaches along the way. I think you and I have always seen coaching and mentoring the same way, and it's nice to see that. Is there someone in particular or a group of in particular that you can say, I'm just happy that I connected with that from day one?
Oh, absolutely. Two coaches have really changed my career path. Number one is Mike Ferry. Number two is Danny Morel. I don't think those two gentlemen get enough credit in terms of how many lives they have changed. And along with that, I'm a firm believer in collaborative effort. And so, when we founded the company Pack Home Realty, Anthony Morel and Jason Lucero were a huge part of my mindset shift.
Hey, there's Jose Alvarez. I hope you're enjoying the Journey podcast by Collect the Closers. Many entrepreneurs are always messaging me about how do I backbite my time? And that's where our favorite sponsor comes into the picture, Q4 Workspace. If you're looking for system support, executive assistants, editors, graphic designers, cold callers, basically anyone that can help you back by your time and really enjoy the freedom of your business, they're the people to call. Not only can they find the right support, but they can also train and create an operating system that will give you your time back and help you grow your business along the way. So make sure that you go to q4workspace.com or just hit the link below so you can grab more information and start enjoying life a little bit more and not letting go of your business. Because we sometimes we get to, you could say, we get too in the business and we need someone to help us get out and see that there's still possibilities and there's still things that it's not the end of the world, right? We always need that other individual that could do that. Now, so apart from them, I mean, family wise, I mean, have you always had people in your corner? I know sometimes I talk to other entrepreneurs and they tell me, man, my best friend's the one that was my support. And it's really nice to see that when you were building your business, outside from just your circle, were there friends, family, other people that were cheering you on, or was it just mostly professional individuals that were around you?
You know, Luckily, it was everybody, right? My parents were supportive. My sister was supportive. My wife, big ups to my wife. Before we got married, she used to sit there and listen to me cold call, right? So
Really?
she knows the just listed, just sold script. She knows the expired script. She knows the list seller prequal. Like I made it mandatory that we hit certain levels in terms of contacts and appointments before we go on our dinner date, right?
Really? That's
And
so cool.
yeah, and big ups to her because she's the most kindest, most compassion. She was a nurse for a children's hospital for quite some time, and
Okay.
and so I would rehearse objections and presentations with her in the car while we're going to dinner, right? And it was I just big ups to all the people. And and I want to give a huge shout out to my former partner Marvin Lee, which, without him, a lot of things wouldn't have been possible, right? And all the
Nice.
friends that were around us, they loved us, they supported us, they did business with us. And so, we were very fortunate in having a great family, a great friend group, and and just overall
Nice.
great support.
Great. You have a family now, right?
I have
You're
4 kids. I have
married,
4 beautiful kids. Yeah. We were
four
married
beautiful
about
kids.
13 years. I have a daughter, Jordan, who's
Okay.
10, Jackson, who's 7, Jonathan, who's 5, and Jason, who's 3. So it's a wild ride.
How are you balancing that now? I mean, because business is different. Now having more responsibilities is different, right? And I mean, the organization is growing, so that is putting you into a place where it's the more demanding too. How do you normally like manage your week, your days, everything?
And that's a very good question. For me, I don't believe in balance.
Okay.
If that makes sense. There is no 50-50. Something's got to give. So in order for me to protect my family time and just having I just wanted a large family. I want to spend a lot of time with my family. And so I knew to create an imbalance that way, I had to create an imbalance this way, right? And so the level of intensity which I worked in my business, it was pretty intense. It was
Okay.
pretty intense. There were high standards, high pressure situations where, you know, I needed to make things happen, right? Right. And people get inspired or they do it out of inspiration or desperation. I was really desperate where I needed to make it happen and in a large way, in a large sense where I could afford not just money wise, but in time wise to spend with my family. And so earlier years, that effort was put forth, right? And it was put in, and it was invested and just yeah, and so just creating imbalances create a balance for yourself, right, and your benefit. That has really worked out for me.
It's interesting. Sometimes we see on social media there is people that talk about the morning routine and everything we are going on. Do you have something that you follow every day? Because I'll be honest with you, like I've tried so many of them, and it's like they always keep changing on me. Do you follow that so that you could be successful in the business, or what's your process?
You know, I it's two different morning routines now, right? So no, my morning routine is wake up, right, look, see my kids, drink my coffee, walk them to school, right, and then come into the office. When I was selling at a high level, I was in the office by 6:50. My first calls would go out by 7:15. We had role play dialogue practice at 8, right? 8 to 8:30, and 8:30 to 11, again, I'd be back on the phone calls. And then 11 to 11:30, it's lead follow-up time. I followed that system to the T for years on end. And within that, I think the difficult thing is because it's repeated on a daily basis. There's no more exciting stuff, right? When things are repeating Monday through Friday, Saturday, every single day, just mastering the boredom, right? I think mastering the boredom, not putting too much thought into it. It just has to get done. I think that was quote unquote the secret sauce.
And I know that we hear from a lot of coaches right now, which this is where it's like in my opinion, it's a mixed message. They say you don't have to like work too hard. Like they I think they level down the responsibility that we all have when we become business owners. I've always thought, man, that is so dangerous to share with someone because let's be honest, sometimes there's a season, especially when you're brand new, that you do have to just double down, especially starting the morning with a big win. So, based going back to what you just said right now, if you were to give an advice to your younger self and knowing everything that you know now, seeing everything that you have picked up along the years, would you have advised your younger person to like do it the way that you did it, which was just grind and do it and get it done, or trying to find that new era of balance that everyone promotes?
I would do three things. I would give my younger self three things. Number one, find a coach or mentor faster, quicker, right? You know, don't consider finding a coach or a mentor a cost. Consider an investment.
Mhm.
They're going to lay out a roadmap, a pathway for you to walk on where that in itself is a shortcut, right?
Okay.
Being able to pick someone's brain to get to what they know, right? What they went through. That in itself is just it's worth a lot, right? Number two is you got to surround yourself with like-minded people, solution-based thinking people. If you have the solution, they always have the problems, you're in the wrong room. If they have solutions and you always have problems, you shouldn't be there, right? So finding a good community that can support each other, I think that's number two. And number three, create a database, create a great system for yourself. I know it's one of those things where sales, you make a check, you go spend it, you invest it or whatever. But working in the business, creating a database using your CRM would, man, it's if I told my younger self those three things, I think it would have been great.
You know why I'm smiling right now so much? Because I asked you a question when we started the episode, and it's everyone's trying to find the shortcut. And I think you and I know exactly what that usually projects as, because we probably have seen it the same way. And in our industry, it's like, I want to get the leads, or I want to get the Zillows, or I want to get, all that stuff they sell you. And in other industries, for anyone that is watching that is not in real estate, there's probably in other industries similar aspects of creating those quote unquote shortcuts. You literally just said what, in my opinion, is the real shortcut and the real way of speeding up your growth in the business, which is one, find the coach, two, get into the right space or the right community, and then three, build a database. Honestly, that right there, if there's anyone watching right now and it's like brand new into the business and you've been paying for random shiny objects, trust me, this right here that was just said is like, it's everything you need. It's everything and all you need. So this right there is just perfect. It's interesting, John. The whole idea behind Collected Closers is that, and also the podcast and the community that we have, is that there's usually a moment. We believe that before anyone else, or you can close anyone else, you have to close yourself. Close yourselves on believing that you could do whatever it is you want to do. Close yourself on believing that you're going to be able to succeed. Close yourself knowing that you haven't made a check in 10 months, but you're still going. Like, you're convincing and closing yourself to keep pushing forward. So where along the way, along through your journey, do you feel that you had to close yourself the most? Was it at the beginning, in the middle, now? Like, where has it been? And if you could describe that to our audience, that you believe you really needed to believe in yourself and close yourself and keep going. Is it?
It's those thoughts. It comes up pretty often, right? Because there's new iterations of business that we have to handle, and we get to be involved in. And so the fear and just closing yourself, the fact that I can do it, I don't have all the answers. It's not about the how, it's about the who, right? Somebody has the answers, the collaborative effort. So being in the right community, even at this space, even in my season of business, man, I love collaborating with people like yourselves, with the founding partners, with all the coaches and the leaders that we have within our company. I love having, collaborative effort there. One of the biggest kind of the flips that I had in my own personal business is that I was just too nice. I was playing too nice. That if I was polite enough, if I did the right things in terms of how other people wanted me to do it, then I would make it, right?
Mhm.
And I was given a choice. I was given a choice when before my first daughter was born, or shortly after she was born. I actually told my wife, you know what, for the money that I'm making, I could be a lot less stressed if I just worked at corporate. And she's the nicest person. If you ever met her, she's the nicest, most gentle person, the most patient person. And this one line has changed my trajectory forever. And a huge shout outs to her. She said, then, are you gonna teach your daughter how to quit?
Wow, that's huge.
And I
Wow.
sat there, you know what? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I told
Nice.
myself, and then in 90 days, let's give ourselves 90 days to see what I can really do. Within those 90 days, I picked up 32 listings in 90 days, and I became the manager of the office that we ran back there on the 90th day, if you can imagine
Wow.
that.
Wow.
So, so just the intentionality, and just like, when people want shortcuts, they want shortcuts without the hard work. All the affirmations, right? All the kind words, all all the good stuff like you want to hear without action, it's just a dream. I've never worked harder in my life than that period right there. And with some intensity when I was speaking to prospects, there was some stuff that came out where, okay, it's clicking now. Being nice as a salesperson, I shouldn't be nice. I could be kind, I could be curious, but I'm not trying to be nice anymore, if
Wow.
that makes sense. So
So do you believe that someone can change their life in 90 days?
in 90 days, in 90
Yeah.
days, in 90 days, the world can flip upside down for your best interest.
Wow. Nice.
I'm a firm believer in that.
What doing the work, of course.
Doing the work, right? And so, my old coach told me this once. He said, you know what? The results that you want, it might take a while, right?
Yeah.
It might take some time. It could take 90 days, but decisions are made instantly. So there's a power in decisions.
The moment that you find the certainty that you're saying today is the day I move forward. What is
It's
your
not one
biggest
day, it's day one.
day one? What is your biggest challenge right now? Is there a biggest challenge right now that John is going through?
Challenges, as we are developing new things within the brokerage, Pac Home Realty, is that I am the head of education. And so finding new ways to bring value to our agents,
Yeah.
helping them sell more, right? Attract more. Is it a challenge? It's always a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. It's a
Mm,
fun challenge. And it's not only for me, right? When we get to procure great leaders on great content, bringing a lot of value to our agents, that is our ultimate goal. So in that challenge, I fully accept.
nice. Who inspires you right now? I mean, because now you're a whole different person, father, business owner, a leader. I'm sure your inspirations have changed. What and who inspires you nowadays?
For me, there's not a person that inspires me. I think it's situational, right? In terms of what I want for my future life is that I want to spend a lot of time with my kids.
Mm,
When I was growing up, just like a lot of people out there, we were latchkey kids, right? So the parents are working, we're just kind of left to our own devices. And I didn't grow up growing up with my dad or, with my mom, and not that, right? But for me, I think just spending a lot of time with my wife traveling or, coaching my kids' sports activities, being at sports games, traveling together, right? I think that's an inspiration to me. That lifestyle for me is very attractive, and that's what I'm after.
nice, nice. Where do you see yourself like in, I want to say 5 years from now?
Growing this great company of ours, I think there's a lot of value here where people can tap into. We can help a lot of people, sell obviously a lot of homes, but attract because we're a production based company that happen to have rev share, and we want our agents to unlock really their not just their full potential, but their full purpose as well. And so we want to grow in quality as well as quantity.
Let's say we were to remove the professional things out of John. There's no business. There's nothing going on. You have, I don't know, $10 billion in the bank. Who is John apart from the professional that we know?
I love kids. I love kids. I was telling my wife the other day, and she knows this too. If I wasn't a real estate professional, I think I'd be like a youth like a football coach or like a kindergarten teacher, right? I don't think my mug will support that, but I think football coach or like just having a day to day with just a group of kids, that energy is just so energetic and it's so rejuvenating, right? And it's fun. And so if I wasn't a real estate professional, I think it'd be with either kids of all ages, high school, college. It could be kindergartners, first graders, and so I'd be around kids.
They say that AI is gonna get everyone out of working and everyone's gonna have unlimited time. What's your thought on AI? You think that is really gonna disrupt the world the way they're saying that it is?
There's always going to be distractions. As coming up in the real estate game, I heard it a lot, right? The unification of MLS is going to do something. The big companies out there, the Zillows and the they're going to interrupt it's going to kill everybody. Or, there's always something. There's
Right.
always something. And I believe AI will be a great tool for compliance. I think it'll help a lot of agents to do better work, right? More efficiency and more effectively.
Yeah.
However, I believe it's a tool, not a replacement of.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, just to close off, John. I mean, if there's someone out there listening right now is afraid of starting, betting on their own, like you said that you jump right into the business from the beginning. For me, it took me a long time, in my opinion. It took me like 5, 6 years to say I'm gonna go all in. Right. In hindsight, I think it was a mistake. I think the way you did it was brave, a lot more brave than me, and I think that's a great way to do it. But if there's someone out there listening and just afraid of believing in themselves, what's something that you would, some sort of advice that you would share with them?
I would say, don't try to make the right choice. I would say make the choice and make that choice right.
Mm.
There is no perfection. There's a lot of wrongs in the path of whatever you call success, however you want to do it. But just make the decision and run with it. And I spoke to, the group of agents today at a company meeting is that, some of the stuff that you're scared to do, you got to do that now. Once you do that, it'll transcend whatever choice and the results that you're going to make. It's going to yield great results.
We talked about 5 year goal and where you see yourself. What about the next 12 months? What's what's exciting for you right now? What are you working on? And also, how can people connect with you if they have any questions or just want to reach out? Where can they find
Yeah,
you?
no, absolutely. So we are starting a brand new coaching company within Inside Pack for pack agents, right? And so
Okay.
I'm excited to see the growth in that. If you want to reach me at Instagram, it's at John Kang 1031. I'm pretty easy to find. You'll see all the information there. And so, yeah.
Perfect. John, again, thank you very much, man. This has been great. Like I said, I was really excited to get to have this conversation with you. And just overall, I know that whoever's watching out there, I know just like myself, at one point I went to you for advice, and I know this episode is gonna resonate with people, and I hope that it provides whatever answers or thoughts they're looking for. And yeah, feel free to reach out to yourself, to myself. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, is really to help people. So thank you, man. Thank you very much for your time and your energy and just sharing all your knowledge with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you for listening to The Journey by Collected Closers. I am your host, Jose Alvarez. And don't forget to share this episode with a business owner or friend or loved one that you believe can impact their lives in business. Our hope is to be able to help other business owners, entrepreneurs, be able to find ideas, thoughts, or anything that could benefit their journey as they hear other fellow entrepreneurs also go through their own struggles, experiences, and wins, and our hope to be able to promote and push people to follow their dreams and not give up. Thank you one more time, and I hope that you find something of value in these episodes.